The immense benefits of having a vision. I had an idea of what I wanted to do in 2024, the 50 States Marathon Challenge. I started in January, 3 months of training, and that was everything. All the decisions that I made were based around, can I run a marathon in all 50 states in 2024? And can I change my life in the process? It changed my life, and I ran a marathon in all 50 states. And so I saw the power of a complete vision, and one that's just out of reach, and one that's ambitious, and it pulls the strength out of you and opportunities collect around you. A vision is super powerful. Now, I've been sick the past month because I ran a marathon in all 50 states. And then right after that, I ran a marathon on all 7 continents. And so, I might have been sick at the end of December, but I got a little bit more out of myself because I had an idea of what I wanted to do in February. So every day for a week, I ran a marathon on all 7 continents, and it was great. But then when I got back from the 7 continents, World Marathon Challenge, February 6th in Miami, not only was I going through stomach problems because the whole week, but my immune system was messed up and my brain and all these different things, because it was 186 miles over 7 days in a plane with all these people and not the best quality food and no sleep. Like, my body was in a wreck, right? But as well, I didn't have a vision. I didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do next. I was confused. And so then the past month and a half, it's March 20th, I've been sick. I've been getting over like the worst cough I've ever had. And the past week in Los Angeles, I show up to LA to run the marathon and I'm sick, but also I don't have an idea of what I want to do with my life moving forward this year. And I have ideas of what I want to do with my life, but I don't have a clear and concise vision of how this year is tangibly going to move me forward on this path. You can have these wild aspirations, but you need a vision, a clear vision of how to get there, how to achieve them. And the clear vision needs to be over the next year, because it's very easy to get distracted week by week, month after month, because you don't zoom out and see how did the things that I just do line up to help me succeed. So I just ran a 7:30 mile. I ran a 9-minute yesterday and like a 9:30 or 10 the day before. And the past month, I haven't really been running fast, right? Of course, I've been recovering for the 7 continents thing, but I see a noticeable difference in my mood, in my clarity, in my well-being, my day-to-day, my productive ability or efficiency when I have a vision, and it translates even into my athletic performance. Y'all, the life-changing power of having a vision, right? Decide what you want to do. Ask yourself, this is my new favorite question. I ask it to all my friends. What's your wildest ambition? What's my wildest ambition? What do I want to do with my life? If I actually could dream big for once and decide in 10 years I could do anything, in 20 years I could do anything. We have 50 years. 50 years. You can rewire your brain in a year, right? Imagine what you can do with 50. You can build an empire. Well, what would I want to do, and what would it be for, right? Because you gotta ask that question first. You could do anything in this life. We've seen all these incredible individuals pull off amazing feats, making trillions of dollars and traveling the world and whatever it is, right? What would it all be for? If the incentives are properly aligned, which is this book that I'm reading, We Who Wrestle with God, if your incentives are properly aligned for the ultimate good, pursuing God's will for your life, trying to glorify God with your life, then whatever you end up doing on that path is the ultimate thing that you could achieve along the way. You have to have the incentive first. And then ask yourself, what do I want to do for the Lord? How would I like to live my life? I think one of my buddies, goodness, see, this dry cough, past month. It's going away though, especially after today. One of my buddies and I had a conversation, and I was confused. It's like, I have all these ideas of what I want to do in this next year. I don't know, is it God's will or not? It's like, I think, when you're on the path, God gives you options, right? It's just about anything that you do, asking the Lord, what is your will for my life? And then being open to the fact that could take different pathways. I want to make inspirational videos, right? But more so, I want to be a public figure. Okay, so then the ultimate extension of this, if I really dream big, then I want to be at the level of an Elon Musk with public influence. And so what's my wildest aspiration, wildest ambition? to have an influence that big, to be the next Joe Rogan, to have a podcast where I could talk with any person in the world, even a president of the United States could come onto my podcast and I could have a conversation with them and put it live for anyone to see. That's one wild aspiration. So then let me build back. How do I pursue that? Well, Joe Rogan, incredible, incredible stories got him to where he is. He lived out a great life in his 20s and 30s, and now he's in his 40s or early 50s, and he has the credibility to bring people on. And as well, he's been doing it for 10 years, and he got started. He was one of the first people ever to do podcasting, and there's a lot of reasons why he is who he is today. But you put the aspiration out there, and now, once again, from the book, We Who Wrestle with God, you view the world through a story. And so then when you have that wild aspiration, that wild ambition, if it's the incentive of it is properly aligned and it's for God, then not only do you have the most clear pathway to get there, or could you develop the most clear pathway, because you have it set in stone. In 10 years, I want to get here. But as well, you know that it's the ultimate motivation. It's the ultimate purpose. And it's not, he talks about in the book, you have to read it. It's the most densely packed book I've ever read in my life. And I've read like 40 books. So I've read a couple, maybe not a ton, but a couple. And sorry, I've listened to audiobooks on a lot of those. So maybe I've read a third of those. Okay, let's just clarify. And that's one of my aspirations, is to actually read 100 books in my lifetime. Anyways, or to read a book every single day for a year. I thought that would be crazy. See, you can have these wild aspirations. When you have the incentives properly aligned and it's for God, that's the ultimate thing you do with your life. He talks through it in the book how God has to exist. And it's not a choice. It's like you would think like, oh, there's like this perfect extreme that's out there. But it's more so that, not necessarily that God has to exist, but there is a God. At any point in time, the epitome of your focus, wherever your aim is, that is the personality that controls you, that is your God. And so then, even whether or not you believe that God exists, something is the peak of your focus, which in a way would be like the highest being, which would be God. You gotta read the book. It's very good. He talks through all these different things. So if that's the case, wouldn't you want the highest point of your focus to be the truth and the best goodness that there is in the world? And then you can seek that and, okay, well, I'm gonna find that in relationships, family members, but people are imperfect. So it's gotta be the perfect relationship, which would be the relationship that you have with something that's perfect, God. I think when you view it from that lens, it's so much easier to believe that there's something bigger out there than just, the earth making its way through evolution. It's gotta be God. Anyways, what's your wildest aspiration? Well, one of them would be to be the next Joe Rogan. Okay. Why do I want to have that level of public influence? Because I think that if I live out a story pursuing God, when I share those stories, it encourages others. It activates them to pursue more for their life, but as well to pursue more for God, right? Not just for my own personal gain, but as well, not even as well, fully to glorify the Lord in whatever I do. So I think that that's a positive thing for me to pursue that life path, is to have the ability to speak to enough people to share the way that I live my life. Now here's the catch, is that I gotta make sure that I'm living my life pristine, right? I can't just be preaching something and so then I've made mistakes, big mistakes, and I make them continually. In the past week, this is what in the Christian worldview people would call sin. And that happens all the time, and I'm not free of this. Like, I'm guilty of that. So it's difficult, right? It's this balance of like, man, I'm an imperfect being, striving to be perfect, on this path aimed towards glorifying the Lord. As I go further along this path, Peterson talks about it in this book. You got to read it. He talks about how every step of the path, you can achieve something bigger, but you also have to sacrifice something. And so you're shedding layers. So ultimately, like, why do you ask that question? What's my wildest aspiration? It's because it puts something out there to gather your focus and opportunities around. But as well, it gives you the ultimate motivation, especially if the incentive is for God, not for yourself. Then as well, the ultimate blessing from the Lord, right? Because now if it's a dream that's so big that it's only possible with God, well, then you can't take credit for it. So then in doing it, you're allowing God to use your story as a testimony of his goodness and his strength. Prime example was the 50 States Marathon Challenge. So then when you ask that wildest ambition question, it gives you all those things: the clarity, the motivation, but the power of a vision. It's crazy. That aspiration question helps you to develop that vision. You put the wildest things out there. Now, here's another one. I want to make $100 million in my lifetime. Okay. Most people want to make $100 million because, they have all this money. It's like, what are you going to do with it? Well, I'm going to retire. I'm going to buy a boat, buy an island, be able to drink all the time and have fun and be merry, right? I don't want to make $100 million for that reason, because I just don't see any utility in that lifestyle. Because anything where you just have to always be getting more, that becomes your God. That becomes something that pulls the life out of you. Ultimately, the best thing that you could do would give you more life as you pursue more of it, which would be God's will for your life and the beautiful things that exist out there. So it's like, what would that look like? Well, why do I want to make $100 million? I want to do something that orients the world in a proper direction, that has the scale of providing $100 million of value. There's a difference there, right? I'm not seeking this money to have an end good, but more so, I'm going to put this wild aspiration out there that whatever I commit my life to, I want it to be a very valuable thing, valuable enough to be worth $100 million. So then it changes the scale of the things that I can work on. I can still sew together a pair of shorts, but I have to have the idea in mind of how can I sew together this pair of shorts to make a clothing brand worth $100 million. Maybe that's what it is. Right now, that's the idea that has captivated me, and so I'm going to pursue that. There's a lot of reasons why. For one, I get to have a creative direction with a product, and so then the more time I spend on it, I can actually start creating a monetary pathway to owning something, to scaling out of the sponsored post, to not necessarily having creative freedom, but in a way, being able to actually step forward on the path of becoming that 10 million followed creator, right? To becoming the next Joe Rogan. So now the two dreams kind of coincide. I kind of get to stack the dreams. Okay, I want to have this level of influence. Well, a lot of that comes down to having the ability to invite people on, to fly them out, to pay an editor, to not have to work, to be able to operate fully doing this thing, make it your full attention, be separated from money. These are the things. To Elon Musk, he made $400 million before he started Tesla, right? And SpaceX. So it's like, and he still works all the time, but it's just the fact that he's not worrying about paying off his debt from the 50 States Marathon Challenge. I am. And so then this next series that I take on, I'm gonna have to self-fund it, right? I have the wild aspirations in mind. So I know that it's worth saving up money for it and dedicating to traveling to the 7 wonders of the world this summer. I know it because I have this wild aspiration. I want to travel to every country in the world and break the world record fastest trip by doing it in less than a year. Right now, the world record is 18 months. So that's another wild aspiration that I have. Well, why do you set that aim? It's because now I really want to do this in my life. I think that it would open my worldview. It would show me the rest of the world. It would, or at least a portion of it. It'd be an interesting story, a unique story I could talk about. It'd be a thing that would mature me. 1,000 reasons why this would make sense. You set the wild aspirations that give you clarity of where you want to be in 10 years so that you can pull back and say, what would be one step to kind of move me forward on this pathway? And then take that next step. I think one thing that I didn't mention is for the 200 countries idea, how does that glorify God? Well, I want to bring the light. When you meet a Christian or someone who believes in God, the idea of being a light will come up. And so maybe just traveling the world, making videos that people from around the world will watch. They'll see my videos and the the smile that I have in the videos and the clarity, the focus, the joy. And they'll ask, like, what is it that's different about this guy? And that's all you need, is just people to ask the question. I'm not trying to convert people. I'm just trying to live my life. And if someone who doesn't believe in God sees me and the joy that I have, and they decide to follow along, and then they stumble upon this YouTube channel, if you're watching it right now, hello, or any of the podcasts that I've recorded when I'm the next Joe Rogan, or even a podcast episode that I was a guest on, they have the ability then to see my belief and what animates me and what activates me to go take on these wild aspirations. I want to live a life for God. And when you want to live a life for God, there's no limitation. It's like, all right, this is it. Like, I want to, Lord, we can do amazing things. Let's do this together. Let me see your world, Lord. Let me see the beauty that exists out there. And let me orient the beautiful people that exist in a positive direction, an upward spiral. Let's together help these people to move away from suffering and out of the evil that exists in the world and towards the good and into your love, God's love. That would be the ultimate goal. So what is the wildest aspiration? Maybe it's that, is to live a life fully for the Lord. A sacrifice to the Lord. I'm still asking that question. Peterson talks about it in this book. You should definitely read it. But man, the power of a clear and concise vision changes everything. People understand you better because it makes sense. You understand yourself better because you understand, right? You know what you want to do. You can figure out what it would take to get there. Then you can actually commit to doing it. You no longer have an excuse. So it motivates you to take action towards this. When you put a timeline on things and there's urgency. Man, what's another wild aspiration? I want to have 8 to 10 kids, y'all. That's crazy. It is crazy. I'm crazy, okay? But man, wouldn't that be the greatest thing ever? Is that at the end of my life, I'm 80 years old, I have these stories. I can tell these stories to my friends, to people that I meet, to events across the country. And so then I have a purpose of sharing knowledge. But then as well, I've got 10 children, 8 to 10, whose children, my grandkids, come to visit me. What if they average 3 apiece? That's 30 grandchildren. If they just saw me once per month, each of them, well then every day of the month, I have something to do. I get to hear about their life, talk with them, and develop their life path. And man, that would be just a wonderful life. You set the wild aspirations because I got to build backwards. If I want to have 10 kids, I got to make a lot of money. I got to have an occupation that doesn't require me to be out of the house every single day. Maybe I just go record a podcast and something in the social media space where it amplifies my time. My time is worth so much more because I record 1 2-hour episode, but then that could be used for so much more value than I could actually generate myself in 2 hours. It's nice that my skill set is built with this in mind, and you don't necessarily have to be at the home all the time, but it makes things easier. If you want to optimize for good family health and a relationship with your wife and lots of kids and overall life experience, it's a lot to balance, right? Maybe that's something that's going to be a challenge only possible with God, is having 10 kids. But it's the ultimate fulfillment. So you set that goal. Well, man, if I want to have 10 kids, assuming that I only have twins twice, then that's 6 years. If my wife's not going to go 6 years back to back, so like, I'm going to have to start having kids sooner than later, is my point here. I'm going to have money. So then I've got 4 years to travel the world, make a platform for myself, make a name, and be in the financial position to find someone, a wife, who would actually be, babe, if you're watching this, who would actually be confident that I would be able to provide for our family and also raise these children with her. That's the greatest thing I could do in my life. Live a life to glorify the Lord, bringing love into the world by having children, changing the world, by changing the next generation, by raising these incredible humans. And then as well, all on the way, documenting the process. You set the wild aspirations, because then it makes you realize you really don't have as much time as you think. And that's okay, because you have 50 years, which is a lot of time. You can do anything in 50 years. But thinking that you could do anything in 50 years and then living out 50 years without doing anything, you're going to end up regretting everything. Instead, deciding at the beginning, I'm going to do these things in my life, or at least die trying. I'm going to build backwards and become focused and realize that there's not much time until I have to finish doing this thing. Maybe reading a book every day for a year doesn't make sense until I'm in my 40s, until all my kids are old enough to take care of themselves and I'm at home, and I'll still be doing these wild challenges. If I'm 23 years old and I use this year of my life to read a book every day for a year with the other goals in mind, I gotta optimize. I gotta realize that I'm only really gonna have unrestricted access to traveling the world for the next 3-4 years. Find a way to make money. Find a way to make money. That's it. Lord God, if this is your will for my life, I ask that you would bless it. That you'd help me to find a way. That you'd keep me humble. And that you would provide. That's it. All right. A vision changes everything. It gives you all the energy in the world. So develop a clear and concise vision for your life, and it will change everything. And commit your life to God. Right? When you live for God and not for yourself, then everything becomes a possibility. The world opens up. Because you're living for God. And so why not live out the greatest life ever? Why not us?